Going to be talking today about what we term imaginative history and geography. This was an idea that was articulated by the literary critic Edward Said. Its basic premise is that the geographies we study and that we find in textbooks aren't natural objects, but rather things that are man-made. They are constructed and put together by human beings in order to make sense of far messier human and natural realities. I'm going to be looking today at a 10th century Persian geography, the Hudud Al-Alam, or the geography of the world, in order to illustrate this idea. An anonymous author wrote this text in the 10th century for the Islamic polities then dominant in Central Asia. It is similar to what we would term today a fact-finding mission. It was meant to provide an overview of the Islamic lands in Central Asia and of the geographies that surrounded it. The Islamic lands in this period encompassed what we now know today, or what we now know as modern-day Uzbekistan, and what was then termed Mavaranakha, the land between the two rivers, or the area between the Amu and Sirdarya rivers. The Hudud AlAlam also encompassed large portions of the Eurasian steppe, and this was an area that Islam had not yet penetrated at this time. The Hudud AlAlam, in effect, gives us a picture of the Islamic realms in Central Asia in this period and the steppe that surrounded them. And this document, like any historical document, is a mixture of both fact and fiction. Though by fiction, I don't mean something invented or made up, but rather something fashioned, shaped, or formed. In terms of what is factual, as we look through the Hudud Al-Alam, there is a particular focus in the geographical summaries on what each region of the steppe has available in terms of tradable goods and natural resources. In the geographic descriptions, there are extensive lists of furs, foods, crops, and other tradable items or goods that are to be found in each region of the steppe. There are also extensive descriptions of the military capabilities of each steppe tribe, together with analyses of their propensity for raiding and the skills and abilities of their warriors. All of this provides a wealth of information on the complex relationship between the Islamic lands and the steppe in this era. It points to the interest of the Islamic realms in trade with the steppe. We can assume that the extensive focus on tradable goods and natural resources is indicative of the complex economic traffic that took place between these two regions. At the same time, the focus on military capabilities points to the often tense relationship between the large, settled agricultural communities of the Islamic polities and the nomadic confederations that would periodically raid and plunder them. We can assume that conflict and skirmishes coexisted alongside economic relations and trade. The Hudud Al-Alam is also useful in providing information about the varied tribes of the steppe in this region in this era, as well as providing a rough outline of the geographies within which they migrated. That said, there is also a very great deal of fashioning and shaping involved in the geographic picture it creates. The Hudud Al-Alam was not an objective or disinterested piece of scholarship. It was commissioned for use by the Islamic polities in Central Asia. The imaginative geography it creates draws a very stark contrast between those lands firmly within the Islamic world, Samarkand, Bukhara, Fargana, and others in Central Asia, and the very steppe, nomadic, and pagan tribes that existed beyond this geography. Islam in these contrasts invariably stands for civilization, reason, order, law, and true faith, whereas the steppe wears the mask of savagery, barbarism, disorder, unreason, etc. The Kyrgyz are described in this latter manner, for example, with the Hudud Al-Alam going so far as to describe certain of their tribes as cannibals who speak languages and dialects that are incomprehensible. The Hudud AlAlam draws a portrait of the steppe and its tribes that makes them the exact opposite of Islamic civilization. They are chaos, disorder, and instability in comparison with the tranquility and peace of Islam. The portraits of the tribes and cultures in the Hudud Al-Alam are caricatures. They take what are incredibly complex geographic and cultural realities and reduce them to contrasts meant to make Islamic civilization seem superior. This set of contrasts grew out of the encounter of Islam in the region with cultures and traditions that were radically different from it, and out of its effort to come to terms with geographic and nomadic entities that were in constant, mutable, and shifting. The Hudud AlAlam was, at its most basic level, an attempt to organize and simplify this overwhelming complexity, to take all the messy realities of the Eurasian steppe and shove them into more well-defined categories. It was an attempt to take something that was unknown and threatening and make it sensible, or to manage it by putting it in some kind of intellectual order. There's nothing unusual in this effort to shape and fashion human geography. This is what Said refers to with the term imaginative history and geography. The assumption that all of the perfectly demarcated geographies we find in atlases and maps mask far less tidy realities, or mask the existence of far less tidy realities on the ground. A text like the Hudud Al-Alam then is a blend or mixture of fact and fiction. And the facts here are quite valuable. They tell us a lot about the importance of trade in this area to these two regions, as well as the often tense relationship between the Islamic polities in Central Asia and the nomadic tribes of the steppe. The dual focus on trade and warfare is also probably an accurate depiction of the complex interchange between these two regions and the dramatically different cultures that they embody. The fictions, however, are also important inasmuch as they show us that historical documents are not only useful in listing facts, they are also useful in showing us how historical actors shape and fashion history and geography.